Yo, I don't know if I can hear you. My bad. Let me try to see what's up. Okay.
Wow, have I been talking for 5 minutes without anybody hearing anything? That's my bad, bro. That's not even on you. I've been sitting here talking for 5 minutes for no reason. Yeah, real. My mic pack had turned itself off. I guess it was sitting in standby long enough. I guess 15 minutes is enough for it to shut itself off. I didn't realize that. I didn't even think to look down and look for the lights. So thanks for coming in and letting me know that people have been sitting here looking at my lips yap away, and nothing come out of it.
Yeah, shit.
So,
I was like, man, I don't
I
know.
guess I might as well explain everything that's going on here real quick again.
Yeah.
So, welcome to Breakin Broncos special, my first mock draft of the offseason. That is the co-host, Santiago Salazar. I am your host, Dan Wetstein. I host all of the podcasts. And then this guy over here, he co-hosts Nug Life with me, but he loves football as much as basketball. And we have told y'all from the beginning, we don't like boxes. So I figured this would be a perfect time to bring him on. He's only had really only one other, I think, opportunity at this point, which was the year-end review that we had to really talk on camera about these things. But we talk about these things off camera a lot. So that's why we have brought in Santiago here, is to give him a chance to talk something other than basketball. Plus, I needed somebody to talk about these picks with. So to re-explain what we're doing here is I did a 7-round mock draft. Obviously, the Broncos don't have a first or second rounder. So therefore, they don't have a full 7 rounds worth of draft picks. They only have 5 right now. Right now, they have the 67th and 68th overall picks in the third, 108th overall pick in the fourth, 139th pick in the fifth, and 195th pick in the sixth. But I was able to do a little wheeling and dealing. I didn't want to move up because I didn't want to give up draft capital, but I was able to do a little bit of wheeling and dealing, and I was able to squeeze out 7 picks for the Broncos in this mock draft. So I was able to pick up a few extra picks by just moving up a few spaces here and there, and I'll go through those as we go through this mock draft. And I have a nice little cool little layout that I made. I think y'all will like this. Boom and boom.
Oh, okay. I like that. Hell yeah.
Okay, so you got a little preview there. I didn't mean for it to play like that, but you got a little preview of one of my picks if you were paying attention. And it might mess with you a little bit. But before we get into the picks, I want to explain exactly what we're going to do. These are my picks. I did these by myself, just to be clear. Santiago had no part in this. He's going to give his ideas and his analysis of these picks. And we'll go through them all. Like I said, there's 7 of them in total. And Santiago will let us know how he feels about them and whether he'd pick somebody else, etc. So let's go ahead and jump in since I've already kind of spoiled it for you here. Well, actually, no, real quick. Before we get into this, I wanted to get what you believe are the biggest holes the Broncos still need to fill after free agency with this draft.
Well, the fact that you lose Draymond Jones and him not coming back, getting a better offer sheet for sure. That has a hole to fill. So right there, just both sides of the line, O-line and D-line. For the O-line, Dalton Reisner won't be coming back. Garrett Bowles will be coming back from a gruesome injury. So we definitely want to upgrade that offensive line. That's no question, especially seeing how atrocious the living that Russell Wilson went through last season. But I think the big one is, if you're talking defense, is the fact that Draymond Jones has gone. I mean, it's either a nose tackle or a pass rusher, someone just on that line. I know Mike Purcell and DJ Jones themselves are getting up there in age. So just something on that defensive line, I think, should be one of the priorities.
Okay.
For a team that's drafting all the way till the 3rd round. I mean, that's insane.
You're gonna have to. You're gonna have to find some gems in the rough. You're gonna have to really dig deep into the scouting profiles of these guys. But I think I did a pretty good job of filling not only the holes everybody else fills there, but I think I did yours as well. So let's go ahead and let's jump into these, and we'll see how you feel I did on filling those holes. So first up, we have the 3rd round. There was 2 picks. I was able to get. As you see, this is where I started the moving around a little bit. As I told you before we started this, the Broncos had the 67th and 68th overall pick in the 3rd round. Well, you see here, I took a pick at 67. I moved down 3 spots to 71 with the Saints, and I picked up an extra 7, or I picked up a 6th rounder, and I moved up in the 5th. So I moved up 15 spots in the 5th. And picked up an extra 6th rounder with this trade and only moved back 3 spots. And I also I switched our 4th or 5th rounders. That's how I moved up. But I picked the first one. I know people are gonna be like, but Dan, you sat here and you went to bat for Russell all this time, and why would you pick it? Because this kid is special, and he's coming off of a torn ACL. He will not be ready in 2022. So what can the Broncos do? They can stash him on the IR. Jarrett Stidham is not guaranteed any money past this season. He got a 2-year deal in context, but after this year, he has no guaranteed money. So that $5 million he's due next season in 2024 is not guaranteed. They can get rid of him. And I think this kid comes in and not only becomes the backup to Russell Wilson, but he could be the QB of the future. Hendon Hooker, yes, he's a little older. He's 25, or I think he'll be 26 before the season starts. So it's kind of like a Chris Wanke kind of situation.
Whedon.
Yep, Brandon Whedon, kind of that. But not a guy that has to come in and start right away. You already have Russell Wilson, and he's got so many intangible tools. His athleticism, like he reminds me of Steve McNair. He's that guy that just airs it out, has a beautiful ball, beautiful deep ball, but he can run if necessary. Like he's only got 600 yards of rushing in his career in college, but when you see him move, you can see that there's so much more in it. A lot like Steve McNair. Like as much as people talked about Steve Air McNair, he was a great thrower of the ball, but he was also a sneaky athlete. Much better than people gave him credit for, and much better than he ever really showed, because they're so good at throwing the ball.
I think that was, other than Randall Cunningham, the first real true. Well, Randall Cunningham, Steve Young. It's a few names, but Steve McNair was one of the true modern dual threat quarterbacks who could actually scramble and have a crazy arm. I mean, the real OG, if you really want to go back, is probably Fran Tarkenton, but
yeah, he's the one that invented scrambling. Yes.
Yeah. And so, Randall Cunningham, and it was just that stigma too. The fact that black quarterbacks couldn't play,
right.
Which is just the craziest thing, because you see all these achievements in color barrier. You're still being broken till this day, which kind of, I don't know, kind of shocks me that it's still.
And Steve was even after like Warren Moon and Doug Williams, after a black quarterback had won a Super Bowl, had won multiple Grey Cups and thrown for 50,000 yards. So I'm 100%. That is the perfect group of quarterbacks. He is a scrambler, not a runner. He is not the Lamar Jacksons, the Michael Vicks, the guys like that. He is a essentially take Russell Wilson and stretch him longer and wider, and you have Hendon Hooker. Yeah. That is who he is. He's that type of quarterback. And the only reason that he is available in the third round is because of that ACL tear. And I think that him sitting behind and having a couple of years for Sean Payton to create an offense for him, like you don't have to rush him out there. And really his timetable of when he would be ready in 3 to 4 years, that's what Russell Wilson's current contract is. I know Russ has talked about he wants to play into his 40s, but let's be realistic. That doesn't happen very often. And even if he does, you want a guy in the wings in case something happens. It's an insurance policy, and I don't think you can get a better insurance policy in the third round than a guy like Hendon Hooker. I really liked what he was doing at Tennessee. I think Josh Heupel truly unlocked that potential of what that kid could be. And the great thing is that Josh Heupel is a Sean Payton disciple. He is a lover of the Sean Payton. Everything he does is based off of something that Sean Payton had done in the NFL. And I think that will help him translate even faster into the NFL when it comes to Hendon Hooker. The second pick in this is Mazi Smith. I honestly believe he is the best nose tackle in this draft. So for him to fall this far, I mean, yeah, you have your Jalen Carters, but those are more defensive tackles that are more along the lines of an Aaron Donald. This Mazi Smith, he's more along the lines of, oh man, I forgot his name, from the Patriots and the Texans, Vince Wilfork. There you go. Yes, that's what this guy, and I picked this picture of Mazi Williams. He's obviously the big guy with the dreads on the right side there. He is just stacked. He is so athletic, so big, and just strong. and he will add some pass rush, but he's more of that guy that just muddies up the waters in the middle. He's a 330-pound double team monster. And I think that this kind of a third round to me, I think is a win. I mean, no, I didn't quite get maybe the center that people might have liked. I know a lot of people had the Tipman kid, the 6'6" center going to the Broncos here in the third round. But as you will see later, I was able to fill that hole, but just with a little bit different of a prospect. And I think swapping out a center for a quarterback is a better thing. What do you think?
Cushenberry, what is he? Is he's playing for a roster spot? No, this next year?
Essentially, yeah, he's going to have competition at the very least. If they don't bring anybody else in, he's going to compete with Wattenberg for the starting job if nobody else is brought in.
Yeah, and which it kind of it baffles me that I understand the QB situation with Hendon Hooker. I mean, this guy is healthy and didn't have these bad injuries through his college career. He'd have been a late first rounder type of. Who was the young guy from Ohio State? He just passed away, actually. Dwayne Haskins, was it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he reminded me of, just a little bit older, a little stretched out,
And I think a much better prospect. Like Dwayne Haskins had a lot of red flags to me. I never liked Dwayne Haskins coming out. Rest his soul, be what it is. I'm just an honest guy. Passing away doesn't change my viewpoint of you. I never really thought he was going to be a great quarterback, but I definitely get you in that ill. But I think Hendon Hooker's even a step above that. So I think a fully healthy Hendon Hooker, I don't think he makes it out of the top 20 of the first round.
This reminds me of when the Denver Nuggets drafted MPJ. And MPJ, you remember, before the back injury,
yes,
he was already, everyone had it written on their draft boards, first overall. Everyone's draft board. And then he gets the back surgery, which I think is the second back surgery. We've covered it well on Nug Life, how detrimental that back surgery is to MPJ and to any player. And that dropped him right out of the lottery. Now, the NBA draft is a smaller sample size of the NFL draft is, 3 or 2 rounds compared to 7. But falling, so, do the math there, falling out of the lottery of the NBA draft is essentially falling to a third round pick in the NFL draft.
Essentially, yep.
There is third round gems or first round talent in the third round. There's gems. I mean, you see the last couple of years with wide receivers being second round. Cortland Sutton, Devontae Adams, guys, second round guys. So really, the first round just it looks nice. It looks sexier than it being drafted outside of the first round. But first round is either the best player available type of ordeal with any team. See, I saw in a lot of mock drafts they have C.J. Stroud as the first overall or Bryce Young. If there was any, would those guys go first over Aiden Hutchinson of last year? Would you think teams would take a gamble on that?
Right. No, 100%. And if you want to go straight quarterbacks, you look in the third round gems, the guy that's the starter for the Broncos right now, Russell Wilson, the guy that's the starter for the Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott, both of those guys, it was for different reasons. They fell to the third round simply because they're just small in stature. But Hendon Hooker, it's a very similar situation, but his fall was due to injury because he has the prototypical size. He's 6'4", he's 220, he's athletic, and like we said, he's a scrambler, not a running quarterback. So they couldn't even use the Lamar Jackson BS on him, or the Anthony Richardson, or the list goes on and on for dual threat quarterbacks. It's everybody's is he a running back or is he a quarterback? This guy, there's no question. He is a quarterback, plain and simple. So I think getting a talent like that in the third round is a bit of a coup. But let's go ahead and move on to the fourth round here. Boom, boom. Here we go. And these are the guys for the fourth round. I was able to pick up an extra fourth rounder. We got number 108 and number 118. Here, first pick is Luke Whippler, Ohio State center. So there is your center for you. And this is a guy that fits the mold of a Sean Payton offense. An athletic center, his RAS score is 9.19 out of 10. That's almost perfect. And he's big. It's not like he's a small center. He's 6'3", weighs 300 pounds. So he can move folks. He comes out of Ohio State, who has a long line of centers that have come out and performed in the league. Then the second pick of the fourth round is the perfect complement, I think, to this backfield pairing of Samaje Perine and Javonte Williams. That is Sean Tucker out of Syracuse, who is a former 55-meter, 100-meter, and 200-meter track star. This kid has legit track speed, running a very low, I think it was like a 4.31 40. It's stupid. It's insane how fast this kid is.
Well,
and he's not small. Sorry, real quick. He weighs 220. Go ahead.
Will Tyler Batty be back?
I mean, I like Tyler Batty, but I think this kid is better. Like I like what Batty did. I know he had that 60-yard touchdown on the first catch he ever made, but this kid doesn't only catch the ball out of the backfield, he can run it. So unlike a Batty, who when defenders see him in the backfield, they're going to assume pass. You cannot assume pass with Sean Tucker. He's a bigger and faster version of Tyler Batty.
See, and I'm glad you had a running back on the draft board, because I think that's where you need to go, especially with J-Dog coming back from that what was his ACL he tore, wasn't it?
Yeah, torn ACL and partially torn MCL.
Yeah, so it was a bad knee injury. It was not just the average knee injury, but this past season, Saquon Barkley just proved that just because you have a devastating injury, let it be known, Saquon did come in the league at a very young age, so he had aging as a factor. But Javonte Williams is very young himself, so yes, potential to come back. But there's really you can only name maybe 2 or 3 running backs that are true number ones, workhorses that on a Sunday after Sunday are always getting that workload, and that's what Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, and I couldn't even say another one. I can only think really those 2 guys. So
Josh Jacobs, but that's about it. Yeah, there's not many.
Even Dalvin Cook is playing by committee. He has a lot of
Madison and a couple other guys. Yeah, that get some work, and he gets hurt so often that it's never consistent. So I'm 100% with you. That's pretty much the list.
So running backs are very expendable. It's the days of Emmitt Smith, Terrell Davis. I think we all know. I'm just pretty much preaching to the choir here, but those are long gone. Guys getting to 30 carries a game. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott broke the bank, and it will broke the new running back market. Now they're going to be, you can see running backs much more less paper, unless Saquon Barkley and guys like Javonte Williams have insanely crazy years, proving that even after injury, you can still be a complete beast. But there's no guarantee that Javonte Williams will be that former himself. I mean, there's hope. I have more hope than doubt that Javonte Williams will be that player that we saw in that rookie year. But signing Samaje Perine and getting a guy like, I can't even see Sean Tucker from Syracuse.
Yep.
Especially, you said a dual threat running back. We were talking about dual threat quarterbacks, but a guy who can catch out the backfield and run through the trenches, especially
and block all 3.
And block. See, so it's not even dual, it's or whatever you call it.
Triple threat.
Triple threat. Yeah, triple threat. So it's just something the Broncos do need. Gems are always find all over the board, and not only in the first round. You see what some of these Broncos past first round draft picks. Everyone's panicking about, we don't got a first rounder. Well, you can look at the past ones and a couple names. And this does have to do with a lot of John Elway being the GM, but there's a couple names: Paxton Lynch, Shane Ray, some of the great Bronco Ring of Famers. Who's another one in the first? Bradley Roby was nice. I'm not going to trash Bradley.
He was okay. I don't want to trash him.
He was mainly it was Akeem Talib and Chris Harris, and Bradley Roby just was able to had unbelievable
chemistry. Be a good 3. Yeah, he didn't have to be a starter. He was the third. He was the third guy off the bench.
Yeah,
when it came to being cornerback.
Being one of the best defenses in NFL history got him a good payday when he went to the.
So
wasn't it?
yeah, and it always meant that he was guarding the third best wide receiver on the other team.
Yeah, which
And
is,
another thing that I really want to drive home with Sean Tucker is how often do you see a running back at 5'10", 210, not 5'8", 180 or 190. No, this kid is 5'10", 210 and runs a 4.340.
yeah, he's a whole lot of
That's
he's a whole lot of man. He's
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's why he's able to anchor in the run in the pass game and get those blocks. And why you can't, like I said, with a Tyler Batty, you have when you're a defender and you see a Tyler Batty in the backfield, you know it's going to be a pass, and you know he's not blocking. So that removes a guy from the blocking scheme you got to worry about. It removes a half of the playbook essentially, if not more, depending on what team you are, when it takes out all of the running game completely. So I think this kid, bringing him in, perfect complement to the top two guys that you got, two bruisers in Samaje Perine and Javonte Williams that can go out there and just beat dudes' heads in. And then you got Sean Tucker to go out there and run around everybody. And he can still take it up the middle. Like, this isn't a guy that has to go to the outside. He's 210 pounds. He can still bang it in between the tackles. And if either of those guys go down, or Lord forbid both of them go down, this is a guy that could presumably carry the load for you, especially in today's NFL, as we just discussed. Nobody really gets a lion's share. So almost everybody does a running back by committee. And as we have seen through Sean Payton's career, he has always had at least two, if not even more, running backs that are capable of taking the load. When you look at Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram, Latavius Murray, et al., there
Reggie
in
Bush.
New Orleans.
Reggie
Reggie
Bush.
Bush, yep.
We can't.
There's a
Right.
great comp. Reggie
That
Bush. I think that's a great comp for Sean Tucker.
you know what's funny, man, is Reggie Bush. Like, I didn't really care much about college football. I always was a big fan of just NFL, and so Reggie Bush was the dude that got me involved with 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 college football, and always kind of had some kind of love and hate for USC because of Reggie Bush. But yeah, he was a monster. I felt like he could have had a way better NFL career. He did get hurt a little bit, but man, he was a freaking beast, man. Reggie Bush was nice.
Yes, he was. When he was healthy, there was very few guys that could score no matter where you put them on the field. I know Reggie Bush was always listed as a running back, but there's a reason why Sean Payton called him the X Factor and actually got in trouble from the league because he wanted to create a whole position group called X Factor. So on the depth chart one time, he put X Factor Reggie Bush, but the league got mad
Pretty much
and
what like a
forced
flex
him.
is.
Yeah, essentially, yeah, like a flex in fantasy, and that's how he viewed Reggie Bush, and that's where what you'd see Bush lined up at slot receiver, outside receiver. He'd be in the backfield. He'd be lined up next to the quarterback in the backfield, behind him in shot
Wildcat.
in
He'd run wild.
wildcat. Yes, then you'd see him on punt and kick returns, taking kicks back to the house. Like, there was literally nowhere on the field you could put that man and him not score. I swear, if you put him at cornerback or safety, he'd find a way to make a pick six. He was just that type of athlete. He was
How much
special.
did the Kardashian narrative kind of take away a lot of that from
I
Reggie?
mean, the sex tape, I think, really overshadowed him. Like, he went from being just a football player to a pop culture. I don't want to say icon, a figure. There you go, pop culture figure. And so that kind of overshadowed his NFL ties and all that. And yeah, so I do believe that whole
He was the
Kardashian
guy.
thing really kind of robbed him of what he should be given on the football side. I
He,
think everybody just kind of looks at him as
he
that
was
reality dude.
he was the guy who was dating the chick who made a porno, pretty much.
Yep,
That
with
that
another
was
dude.
so it was just a lot. Now, I mean, that's probably the beginning of the Kardashian curse, with the
I
notorious
believe so.
notorious Kardashian curse. I mean, we're going down a rabbit hole. I love it.
Yeah, I don't want to go too far down there, but yeah, no, I'm with you. And to bring it back again, football Reggie Bush, not Kardashian Bush, is a great comp for Sean Tucker, but Sean Tucker is a bigger he's bigger and just as fast, if not faster, than Reggie Bush, if you can believe that. And we lost Santiago again. It sucks, but it'll happen. He'll be back. Don't worry, guys. We'll go ahead and move on to the next ones here since he's gone. And then hopefully he'll be back by the time we're ready to start really talking about these. So let's go on and move on to the 5th round, where I moved to the 165th overall pick. This was moved down. This was part of the Saints trade where I moved back a little bit, gained an extra pick. We swapped picks around here in these couple of rounds, but then I was able to pull around at 165 and get a physical specimen in Garrett Williams. Garrett Williams is a 6 foot, 190-pound cornerback out of Syracuse. One of the first things that stands out about Williams is, like I said, his athleticism. This is a guy that is not only tall and long and heavy, but is very fast as well. He has quick twitch, very fluid hips. He's a guy that moves extremely well in his back pedal and can flip the hips in a split second to stick with any receiver, and has the speed, not only just the fluidity and the athleticism to keep up with the guy in zone, but he has the speed to track just about any wide receiver all the way down the field. I think about anybody quote unquote slower than the cheetah is really not going to be able to separate. It's going to take guys like the cheetah, like Jalen Waddle. That type of speed are the only guys that could give Garrett Williams some trouble. And the fact that he is still sitting there in the 5th round with that blend of size and speed and athleticism is a bit of a shock to me. I mean, he is coming from a school that's not really known for this defense. He's not really much of a ball hawk, as in getting interceptions. He doesn't have an extreme number of those, but he is a solid player with a lot of speed that could be right out of the gate, at the very least, a good number 3 or slot corner that could, in all reality, really turn into a top flight cornerback in the league. And he is back. So here we are. I don't know how much of that you heard, but this is Garrett Williams, a 6 foot, 190-pound cornerback out of Syracuse, teammate of the last guy we were talking about, Sean Tucker, another track star, but on the opposite side of the football.
I was sitting backstage just waiting for you to bring me in, and I'm just like making faces on the camera. So I don't know if you got it. But,
no, I was looking on a completely different plane here. So whatever you were doing, I did not see. Sorry, my guy.
My bad.
Neither did anybody else, but I hope you enjoyed yourself. There you go.
Some rehydration. My bad. I just went over there and tried to check the Nuggets game. I couldn't find it on ESPN. Maybe I don't.
It's on altitude.
It's on altitude, not ESPN.
Yeah.
My bad.
Their Nuggets are down 48-42 with 7 minutes to go in the second. It's been a pretty close game up until these last couple of minutes. It's been pretty much going back and forth with either the Nuggets or the Bucks up by 1 or 2 until, like I said, about the last 2 minutes, the Bucks have went on a bit of a ridiculous run because the Nuggets can't seem to stop turning over the ball.
What's the score?
48-42 Bucks.
All right.
Well, if Jokic hits his 3, nope, never mind. He didn't.
I'm going to have to log in on that after this and check that out. My bad. I don't mean to.
You're good. But yeah, back to here. Garrett Williams, 6 foot cornerback out of Syracuse, lots of speed. How do you feel?
I don't mind it. Defensive back in the later rounds. I think that's. Excuse me. Hold on. Excuse me. My bad. Drink Coca-Cola. But drafting a defensive back in the later rounds, I think this is where it's appropriate to take those guys. I mean, if you wanted to, you could go and draft a DB in the 3rd round, but that's not really where you need to address an issue or a priority first, and that is the O-line and the D-line. Now, if you had everything figured out and it was in a situation where you just got them winning a Super Bowl, much like when, going back to Bradley Roby, when the Broncos drafted Bradley Roby, the reason why they picked him is it seemed like they had everything in place. So they just went and spent their late first round pick. What was it, 31st overall? On Bradley Roby, just because they got done coming back from a Super Bowl. They were just addressing a luxury and not a necessity. And right now, defensive back is not a necessity for the Broncos if they're acquiring anything else. You have Cortland Sutton, arguably the best corner in the game, being named first team All Pro in his second year. Or Cortland Sutton, I'm sorry, my mind is just going around. Pat Surtain, oh my god, I don't know what the
You're
hell
all
happened
right.
there. That was just dyslexia at its finest. Or
Well, speaking of interceptions, sorry, and we're talking about cornerbacks. Drew Holiday just had a ridiculous interception of Jokic trying to do a full court pass. Like, or no, my bad, Middleton. I apologize. Middleton did it. Like he was trying to do a full court pass, and at the Nuggets free throw line, Middleton literally jumped up and high pointed the ball like he was Pat Surtain. But sorry, go ahead.
no, just going on with the DBs. This is an appropriate place to be taking a corner or a safety or any type of defensive back. Pat Surtain,
Especially a height, weight, speed guy, in my opinion.
Being a first team All Pro just says it all. What this secondary shows. Justin Simmons, who's to me a top 3 safety. I
Yep.
mean, who else would you put up
Pro
there?
Bowler, former All Pro himself. Agreed.
Minka Fitzpatrick and probably someone else, and I'd put Justin Simmons. I mean, who else would you put over Justin Simmons?
As a
Harrison
free safety, yeah, I think you'd
Harrison
have to give
Smith,
it to Minka. I'm sorry, who?
Harrison Smith, or was it Harry Hitman from the Vikings?
He's more of a strong safety, though.
It was strong.
So, yeah, so I wouldn't put him in the same category. If you're going overall safeties, then yeah, they're probably in the same category. But if we're just going free safeties, I think just about Minka Fitzpatrick's about the only one I'd put above Justin Simmons, and that's just simply because of their age difference. And Minka is a little bit more of a ball hawk, and he gets more touchdowns. But
What
other
about?
than that, they're pretty much 1-1.
I know this guy. He's past his prime. I think he didn't retire actually this past year. I might be wrong, but McCourty, he passed his prime. He just playing that Belichick.
No, he's actually a free agent right now, so he hasn't retired officially, but he's to that point. He should be retiring pretty soon. He's pretty old, but no, in his prime, definitely he was definitely as good, if not better than Simmons. But with the Garrett Williams thing, it was to me because they have Damari Mathis and they have Pat Surtain, like you said. They got their 1 and their 2. Damari Mathis is really on that incline. And I think that this guy could come in and be that at the very least, he's got a floor of like a number 3 corner or a slot type of corner because of his size, his speed, his quickness. So, but he also has the size and ability to develop into an outside corner, into a number 2, if not even a number 1, when you include the fact of just how over the top his speed is as a cornerback. So that's where I think he lies. And this is right around the same place that they picked a Damari Mathis last year. And where I thought was a little bit of a symmetry here was they got a guy that's a starter at the same place. And this guy has almost an identical RAS score to a Damari Mathis. Damari Mathis was at like 9.3. This guy's at 9.6. So he's actually even higher on a scale that there wasn't much more for somebody to be higher than a Damari Mathis. And that's really what drove me to grabbing this guy.
You know who made it cool to be a 5th-round cornerback? Fellow Russell Wilson hater, Richard Sherman. He made it cool to be a 5th-round corner. I mean, arguably the hardest position on the field. Would you agree or would you disagree? Having to cover the fastest athletes in the NFL, because you cannot tell me that.
I would say cornerbacks, and then to boil it down even further, a slot corner. I think slot corners have it the worst because not only are you trying to guess when your opponent knows exactly where they're going, but unlike on the outside where there's like limited routes that you can run, when a slot receiver is running the ball, especially or running a route, especially like a Wes Welker or a Julian Edelman, They have like 5 million different ways that they can break off their routes. It's almost unlimited. So if you got a guy like a Chris Harris, a Quan Williams, like the Broncos have right now, that are able to cover those guys, it just takes a special type of talent to do that. And I think it's the most unheralded and hardest job on any defense. So I agree. Yes.
Yeah, so it is going to be the defense don't need to be upgraded. This is just a
No,
luxury. This
just another depth piece. Yeah,
is another depth.
exactly.
Perfectly said. So I do beg to differ on your quarterback pick. So early on in the third round, I know as you brought up, Jared Stidham is not guaranteed next year. After this year, no guaranteed money. But I still do like the quarterback depth with Stidham. He was able to show a little bit of flash with the Raiders against the Niners in that little shootout he had.
Yes, he did have 365 yards against the best defense. I agree that did look really good.
He looked really good. So I'm pass on a quarterback. I do think the fact that you saw as soon as the NFL allowed tampering to happen or the free agency period, the Broncos went on a shopping spree, specifically on the offensive line, getting Ben Powers and
Yes.
I can't
McGlinchey.
McGlinchey.
Yes.
There you go. I was going to say McCliskey. It was some
You and
wrong.
Dylan, man, y'all be struggling with that last name. It's them Irish names that get you, I guess.
Yeah, man. So McGlinchey. Hold on. I'm just. What's a good
Close? McGlinchey.
McGlinchey? I'm gonna call him Mac.
There
Mac.
you go. That works. Big Mac.
It's just so.
Don't sue us, McDonald's.
Reisner's not coming back. This is a tough. What is that?
Yeah,
what the offensive line position that has been just everyone has been through in and through. Was it
right
been
tackle?
Right.
That's why they gave 80. That's why they gave 85 million to McGlinchey. Yes.
Yeah. And so you see, look at the names who have been in the name realm of the right tackle position for the Denver Broncos. That's the route I would have went. I think not first, right away. My bad. Of course, get McGlinchey, but adding another depth piece. So I'd go out and get another tackle. Maybe you can even play left. I know that's where Garrett Bowles is.
I was looking. I will say I was looking for a potential backup right tackle. But the fact that they re-signed Calvin Anderson didn't make me press for it because Anderson, he's shown to be a decent swing tackle. He can play either the right or the left. He's a little bit better on the left than the right, but he's serviceable on the right. And as far as the quarterback, I want to be clear. If it's not Hendon Hooker, I don't want a quarterback. If it wasn't Hendon Hooker, I would not have taken him at 67. And to be really honest with you, even with the ACL tear, I'd be a little surprised if he lasts to 67. Most people have him going in the second round. That's a big reason why I selected him. Well, actually, it's the only reason why. It's because it's him. If it would have been any other quarterback at 67, I'm taking Tippmann and I'm running. And that's just how it is. And honestly, that was my initial thought process was I was going to take Hooker, and then the next pick I was going to take Tippmann, the center. But then in came the New Orleans Saints, gave me the offer. Obviously, it wasn't the real Saints. We are pretending a little bit here, but the computer playing as the Saints came to me with a deal I could not refuse. And so I moved down a few spots, and they had moved up to take Tippmann. So that's where I went into the fourth round and picked what I honestly believe is the second best center. The only one better to me that the Broncos have a chance at getting is Tippmann. So I got the second best center the Broncos could get in the fourth round, and I was able to get a quarterback and a nose tackle at 71 in Maisie Smith. So that was the thought process of what that went. And I wanted to be clear that if it wasn't Hendon Hooker, it would have been either an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman as I went. Because the first time I went around and did this, Hendon Hooker was taken in the first round, I was like, okay, that's completely out of bounds. That's not going to happen. So let me restart this. And that's how he ended up falling to me.
Hear me out. Hear me out on this. I heard it from a Broncos broadcaster or a podcaster, actually, I should say. He said the Broncos right tackle position the last since 2015 maybe they've had 76 players suit up for that position, for that right tackle position, and he called that the Broncos right tackle position. It is the perfect analogy for it, but it is receiving the non-fun side of a glory hole. They have just let everyone. They have just let everyone put.
I wasn't ready. I'm sorry.
They have put. They have let everyone put their junk inside the right tackle position. So this is something that needs to get.
We went way off the rails there. Okay, let's get away from that analogy and move on. I get what you're saying. Let's move on beyond the analogy.
Let's leave it. I'm sorry.
You broke me a little there, bro.
Okay. What throws you off is I take it like so serious. It's about to be like a Skip Bayless take. Then I go off the rails.
Then I'm like, oh wait, it's podcaster. Let me guess. That's good. That sounds like something Brandon Perner from That's Good Sports would say.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's good.
Okay, how did I know that was gonna be the case? I was like, that sounds so much like a Brandon Perner joke. So I'm with you. I love Brandon, but yeah, there's a reason why he does his podcast his way and I do mine.
No, I hear you. That was his. That was. I mean, it was. Maybe it was an analogy that needed to be thrown into our.
Hey, bro, it's out there in the ether. So let's. I guess we're gonna have to embrace it.
I'm sorry, but yeah,
it's all good.
That's the perfect analogy of the right tackle position. Am I wrong?
Yes. No, you're right. You're right. I'm not saying the analogy's wrong, as in like you're just dead wrong. I'm just saying it's wrong in another way. If you feel me.
Sorry, everybody. Sorry.
Hopefully, no children. But anyways.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. Okay. PG.
Sorry. Yeah, we'll try and keep it that way. So let's go ahead and let's move on from here. Let's go to the next round. I was able to keep a pick in the 6th round, but I was able to move it up 5 picks. I went from 195 to 190 in one of my trades, and I was able to pick up Durrell Nchama, edge player, pass rusher from Maryland. This is a sleeper pick. This is a lot in the ilk of like a Jonathan Cooper, a guy that's in the late rounds has just got all these physical traits. He's a big guy, 6'4", 250, built like a tank, has all the speed and athleticism you want, but he's had some injury issues and a lack of production due to those injuries that's allowed him to slide all the way into the 6th round. I like this pick in the way it is. It's just like it's a projection pick. It's not a guarantee to make anything, but it's a guy that has potential with a really high ceiling.
Well, we need an edge. You're getting rid of Vaughn, getting rid of Chubb these last couple of years. Definitely in desperation for an edge. Draymond Jones, he was an edge, wasn't he? Right end.
No, he was a defensive end, he was a defensive end on rush downs and then a defensive tackle on pass downs.
Yeah, so he was nice. Like you said, he wasn't the edge, but he was the Broncos sack leader last year. And so
funny enough, he was, but no, he was not an edge. He's a 3-4 defensive end. He's a really big, like, I don't think people realize how big Draymond is. The dude's 285 pounds. Yeah, he's a big dude.
That was a acquisition, or not an acquisition. What would be the word for it? Just a loss, I guess. Probably the biggest. I mean, we won with some of those signings. Essentially, it looks as on paper, but that's the big one that we lost, was not being able to bring.
But there was a counter punch to that, though. You got to remember that they also went out and got Zach Allen, the defensive end from Arizona, to replace Draymond, which is essentially he's the white version of Draymond, and he had the second best run stop rate. The only defender that was better than Zach Allen last year was Aaron Donald. That's it.
And it's fine. picking up Zach Allen. But Draymond was just such a beast, man. He was, a guy
Oh,
who
he was. Like, I'm not trying to downplay Draymond at all. You're right.
they developed him over the years. His first 2 to 3 years were when they were hurt. He was hurt, wasn't he? He was banged up a little bit. Didn't get as much playing time as he.
Draymond, he was I don't think he was really hurt the first couple of years. He was just really inconsistent. He hadn't put on all the weight. Like when he came into the league, he was only like 265, 270, and now he plays at like 285, 290. So he was a little light in the pants. They really only used him on rush when he was to use his pass rushing prowess. He just didn't really have enough strength to really do anything in the run game. It's these last couple of years where he put on the extra pounds, added the extra strength, and started playing against the run, that he started playing more and then broke out and did the things he did like last year where he was the sack leader.
Yeah, and the fact Draymond his first couple of years, it kind of reminded me of, now, tell me if I'm wrong, but Robert Ayers, a guy who was inconsistent, but when he played and he was real nice, he was pretty damn good. And you remember in that 2011 playoff game, that crazy Tebow game, where what uh, the Pittsburgh Steelers were actually marching to try to tie that game in regulation, and Robert Ayers gets that sack on Ben Roethlisberger. So it just showed that he had that type of clutchness.
Yeah, he got the hit. Shelby Harris got the pass defense. Like he batted the ball, and then it was, or no, you're right. It was Robert Ayers that got the hit, and then Shelby Harris got the interception off of the hit. So yes.
Yeah, it was just, and that's the type of guy Draymond was, I think, at his finest. The thing, though, that was different is Draymond raised his game from a level that Robert Ayers was never able to. Robert Ayers, for the rest of his career, was that type of guy, that inconsistent guy.
Now, I will give Robert Ayers, after he left Denver, for the first 2 years, if I'm remembering right, I don't remember. Well, I don't want to say the team. I want to say it was Tennessee, but wherever team he went to, he led them in sacks for the next 2 years. So it wasn't like he was a slouch. And it's kind of like a lot. I like that you brought up Robert Ayers, because it's a really similar situation to Draymond, where he kind of left Denver at his peak and then continued on. So I really like that comp. That's a perfect comp when it comes to Draymond. So no, I agree with you. I know you asked me earlier if I thought you were wrong. I'm telling you now. That's a perfect comp.
Talking about Robert Ayers, it kind of reminds me, and we're talking about 2011. So think of some of those names on that squad, man. You just damn, those guys get kind of lost in translation. Like Elvis Dumervil. I feel people forget about how dominant Elvis Dumervil was. 18 and a half sacks, led the league, and I mean that was
the only Bronco
that was
to
supposed to
ever lead the league.
If they right, I mean, what is his agent sent a fax 5 minutes late?
Yes, no, it was John Elway sent the fax 5 minutes late.
And it was after the deadline to where the Broncos they matched the offer sheet that the Raiders offered him.
But he was 5 minutes too late. Yeah, it was John Elway's fault.
I mean, he made up for it going and acquiring DeMarcus Ware, but if he didn't get DeMarcus Ware, would he have been
right?
Would have Vaughn been known as the guy partner in crime?
Right? Yeah. Who does he pair with?
Man,
is that 2015 defense as dominant as it is without DeMarcus Ware? I would like to put in the argument that Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware were more crucial to that defense than any other defenders by far, because they made everybody else better. They made the cornerbacks better because they didn't have to defend nearly as long. They made the other defensive linemen better because they would get one-on-ones. Because I mean, you're double teaming both outside linebackers. That leaves at least one interior guy without anybody to block him other than a running back. So they were so crucial to that defense. And I don't, as much credit as they get, I still don't think they get enough. I don't think you can give them enough. But we're getting close to the last hour here, so I want to get this last pick in real quick. So let's go to round 7. This is the final pick of the draft. I was able to pick this one up again in another trade. The Broncos at this moment don't have a 7th round draft pick. I was able to pick up number 229 and picked up another physical freak. He's a little bit on the small side for an inside linebacker. He did play outside linebacker, but it was a 4-3 outside linebacker, not a 3-4 where he was a pass rusher. So he did a lot of what the Broncos asked their middle linebackers to do in college, which is cover guys, sift through things. And this is a guy that used to be a running back. He flipped sides a lot like a Anthony Barr, and he has the speed and overly big for a running back. This is why one of the reasons why he moved to linebacker, but he still kept that speed that he had as a running back, and so he's a true sideline to sideline maven. And also early in his career, I think he could be a great asset on special teams. Something I didn't even mention with both the running back and cornerback that I took out of Syracuse. Both of those guys can be kick and punt returners as well. It's another thing that's one thing that I also wanted to put in with a lot of these late round draft picks is they had to be guys that could play on special teams. I did not want anything of guys that were just one dimensional, like a Montreal Washington, which I felt as much as I liked him as a returner, I did not see him having a draftable grade last year. So I would much rather see the Broncos going with guys like this that have high upside. They might have a very low floor, but they also have a very high ceiling. So that's where I'm coming out with this guy. Again, a little undersized, but he does so well at sifting through traffic. He's really taken that running back ability of finding holes, being patient and finding those holes, and he's flipped it onto the defensive side. And he's able to sift through traffic in a way guys his size don't normally do. So what do you think?
That adding more gas linebacking room that is already pretty damn dominant with Josie Jewell coming off his best year so far being in the NFL, and Alex Singleton getting signed to a 3-year, $18 million. It just gives you time. You already know you're going to get results from your linebacking core with just those guys, two guys alone. It gives you time for Charlie Thomas to develop, and this is probably the perfect uh, line I would go down with. I would probably consider going another offensive player like a flex, like you were saying, a flanker, an X factor, just because you have Sean Payton offense, and I think that what he might do, but we'll see come draft night. But adding another linebacker while you already have the two guys who you're going to get results from night in and night out, I have no problem going for Charlie Thomas, developing him in the meantime.
Yeah, and the thing that I love that's so enticing about Charlie is again his floor, and this is again a 7th round draft pick. Keep that in mind. His floor is a special teams maven. Somebody like this is a guy I see as the quintessential Bill Belichick draft pick that you just find a guy that's able to go out there do ridiculous things on special teams and then just go seeing what he could do on defense. And I think he will overly impress this defensive coordinator and Vance Joseph and the other defensive coaches, and to the point where I think he gets put into the rotation. And you might see this guy as the nickel linebacker. As much as we love Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton, they both struggle against athletic tight ends and bigger slot wide receivers that end up coming over the middle and running backs coming out of the backfield. This is a guy that has been a running back that knows what these guys are going to do, and he has the athleticism and enough size. He's not like he's small. Like I say, he's undersized, but he's still 6'1", 230. He's not small by any means. But and when it comes to NFL standards, they typically want their middle linebackers somewhere around 6'3", 6'4", and 240, 250. So he's just a slightly undersized. And I think that athleticism is going to more than make up for those couple of inches and couple of pounds that some might think are a big deal. To me, I don't, because of his athleticism. Now, if he was as small as he is and slow or something like that, then yeah, I wouldn't, be pounding the table for him. But with his athletic profile, I say bump the whole size thing. That can be overly articulated. In this case, he's a guy that I think you can overlook the physical measurables and be at peace with what he does on the field athletically from sideline to sideline on all three phases again. This isn't a guy that's just going to be a linebacker. He's going to be on the punt and kick return teams and tracking guys down and doing it efficiently. So he's going to bring multiple valuable pieces to this team, not just one side of the football. But those are the picks, and let me see how well this works out here. Okay, let me get rid of this guy.
Compare it.
Okay, this is the full. This is the full 7 picks here. So overall, we got Hendon Hooker QB, Maisie Smith nose tackle, Luke Whippler center, Sean Tucker running back, Garrett Williams cornerback, Darrell Nchami edge rusher, and Charlie Thomas inside linebacker. Overall, I like this. I think it's about as good as it can get. Yes, there's some things you could do, like you said, if you don't take Hendon Hooker. And again, if Hendon Hooker doesn't fall to 67, I'm not taking a quarterback. So this would change dramatically if it's not for Hendon Hooker. But as of now, with what I have, I think I did a pretty good job. What do you think overall?
I think the Hendon Hooker thing, it could be 2 aspects. It's either the Broncos, they see of just filling up that offensive line or defensive line. Preferably probably the offensive line, just because to your point, they did lose Draymond Jones, but went out and got Zach Allen. So maybe just going for another offensive lineman, because it was the biggest issue for the Denver Broncos last season. So I can see that first pick being an offensive lineman, preferably a backup right tackle, backup, just backup tackle, left or right. The Hendon Hooker thing, it can be one or two things that the Broncos see what I see and just address the offensive line before prioritizing the quarterback situation, or that Hendon Hooker falls off the draft board way much earlier than you know the 67th pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, most mock drafts have him going in the second. This is just a simulation that had him falling even further due to the knee injuries. And to me, it's just his talent outweighs anything else. I understand picking for need, but to me, when you go into a draft just worried about needs instead of picking best player available, that's how you end up with a Paxton Lynch instead of a Dak Prescott. Like that's the differentiation between a team drafting for need over best player available. That's the type of situation you get yourself in, and I hate when teams do that. I get it, I really do. I understand, you need a cornerback and there's a run on cornerbacks, and then there's just one guy you have left on your board, but you don't have him until the 7th round, but it's only the 5th round, and so you reach and you snatch him up and you leave another guy that turns out to be an all pro for another team, kind of like a George Kittle. You know, the Broncos could have had a George Kittle, but instead they went and got Kyle Butts.
Oh no,
That's what
Jake
happens.
Was it Jake Butt?
Huh?
Was it Jake Butt?
Yep, Jake Butt. There you go. Yeah, Jake
Kyle
Butt.
Butt.
They took Jake Butt instead of George Kittle because of
That
measurables and need.
that's all right that you don't remember his name, because who does? Does anyone remember that guy?
Right?
It,
I got his last name right, at least.
and I looking up at the Pats, because the Broncos, when have they had an actual baller tight end? I mean, I know Owen Daniels in that Super Bowl team, but he was a Gary Kubiak type of system player. He was in
Oh yeah, he
Houston
was just depth.
for he was in Houston in there for a long time, and he was with the Ravens when Kubiak was there, and so he pretty much brought him over, the way Tom Thibodeau would bring over Derrick Rose anywhere he went. And so, that was actually last tight end that was actually substantial of any level. I mean, I know Noah Fant had his moments, but other than that, like, you think of these names, Jeff Hireman, was Andrew Beck, Jake Butt. I mean, the Broncos have had the same with the right tackle position. It's just a crazy
Yep.
carousel of tight
Yeah,
end.
Albert O was supposed to be the next guy. Then Jake Butt was supposed to be the next guy. Now it's Greg Dulcich, and I think they got a good one. I think they finally did.
I like that with Greg Dulcich, and he's not because of the hair and the luscious locks, but he does remind me a lot of TJ.
Right.
He really does.
Yes.
He fast guy out there. I wouldn't say a Kelsey or a Kittle, because I just I mean, it was his rookie year. He wasn't the
but
best blocker.
just right below maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
they
get
just,
you.
his blocking ability singles him out, and of course the
Yeah,
body that um, Kittle and Kelsey have been able to establish over their
right.
career.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. That's the major differentiation between a Greg Dulcich and a Travis Kelsey is Travis Kelsey and George Kittle, as great as they are as pass catchers, they are just as good as pass protectors when it comes to that part of their job as well. And run blockers on top. Like they move guys. They don't just get in the way of guys. They move them, especially Kittle. Kittle is like he is the ultimate run blocking tight end in the league, as well as a pass catching just monstrous beast out there. I'm 100% with you. But to me, honestly, with the limited firepower that I had to work with to begin, so ended up coming out of this with 7 picks, hitting just about every single hole that the Broncos have. Depth edge rusher, nose to. I think Maisie Smith is a starter from day one. I think that if they are able to grab Maisie Smith in the 3rd round, they will have a starting defensive line of DJ Jones, Maisie Smith, and Zach Allen with an average weight of 295 pounds.
That's crazy. That's
That's
crazy.
insane
You know,
across the defensive line. And then you add in the pass rushers of Baron Browning, Nick Benito, Randy Gregory, Jacob Martin, Jonathan Cooper. The depth at edge rusher, I think, is much deeper than people are giving them credit for. And I think guys like Baron Browning and Jacob Martin are going to surprise a few people next year. I don't think they paid enough attention to these guys to really understand that there is true potential that could be unlocked with the right defensive scheme. And I think Vance Joseph is going to bring it with that 3-4 attacking style that he likes to run. And with that meat in the middle of the defense just eating up all the blocks, those edge rushers are going to have so many one-on-ones. Because Maisie Smith, if you don't give him 2 guys, he's going to destroy your whole game plan. Period. He's a 330-pound think back to the picture that I showed y'all. Does that look like a 330-pound man?
it's athletic.
That is a joke. That is a yoked up 330. That is one of the buffest 330s I've ever seen. Most of the time that you see guys that size, they're a Vince Wilfork. They got that big old beer belly gut going on and stuff. Even a Mike Purcell, who's 310, has a beer belly.
Remember Terrence Knighton? Remember Pot Roast?
Yes, Pot Roast. Yeah. Yes, another good example. Yeah. Normally those guys, that's what they are. They got those big old. This guy don't. He's almost flat. Like he probably doesn't have a 6-pack. He's got a little bit of a gut, but I mean, still, he's just yoked. And so, if you don't put 2 guys on him, he is going to destroy you. And then you got DJ Jones, who's a lot the same way, 310-pound monster that if you don't give at least 2 guys, he's going to wreck your game plan. Zach Allen, same thing. You don't give him double teams. You can only double team so many people before you run out of guys that can catch passes, okay? So I think that guy sitting there in the middle changes this defense. So I know I'm biased. This is my list. But I would love to hear y'all's opinion. I don't want to just hear my guy Santiago's. I want to hear you guys, all Tape 42 family. Let me know down in the comments, on Twitter, on the threads, all those good places. Let me know what you think of this mock draft, what you might have done differently. I would love to hear your takes. So make sure y'all send those over to us. I think this is a good place to end it. We've been here for a little bit over an hour. So that is my mock draft. Again, check it out. Like it, love it, hate it. Whatever the case may be, let me know. I'd love to hear your take. So, as always, I am your host, Dan Wetstein, here with the Breakin' Broncos special. That's my host from Nug Life, and for this special, Santiago Salazar. As always, we are here with the Tape 42 movement. For the answer is 42, don't question the blue.